thing almost no one is addressing. We've been trained to think of inner conflict as purely private, something that lives entirely inside us. It doesn't. Studies show that much of what feels like internal ambivalence is actually being generated by the perceived gaps between your own views and the views of the people around you. Your mother's voice, your old friend's judgment, your culture's unspoken rules about who you're supposed to be. The war inside your head has faces attached to it. It has addresses. Some of the loudest fighters in your internal battle are people you haven't spoken to in years. That's not metaphor. That's what the research shows. And here's something else nobody tells you about inner conflict. It's probably why you procrastinate. Not laziness, not weak discipline, not a broken work ethic. Procrastination makes complete rational sense if part of you genuinely believes that the moment you take action, you will be humiliated, rejected, or exposed as a fraud. That belief is almost certainly backed by a trail of painful memories buried so far below consciousness that you can't pull them up on demand. And yet they are voting, every single day, on what you do and don't do with your life. Your inaction isn't irrational. It's just operating from a set of rules you never consciously agreed to. Now at some point, most people try to resolve their conflict by thinking their way through it. They journal. They make pros and cons lists. They talk it out with friends over and over, and nothing shifts. That's because they're using a tool that is structurally incompatible with the problem. Western logic, the foundation of how almost all of us were educated to think, is built on either or. A thing is true or it's false. A choice is right or it's wrong. A person is good or they're bad. But inner conflict lives in a space where two opposite things are simultaneously true. And a framework that can only hold one truth at a time will always fail you here. You are trying to solve a paradox with a system that doesn't believe paradoxes can exist. That's a mismatch between your tool and your problem. Before we get to what actually works, let's talk about what's happening in your body right now. Because this is the piece that almost everyone skips, and it might be the most important part of all. Inner conflict doesn't just live in the mind. It lives in the chest. It lives in the jaw. It lives in the gut. That knot in your stomach is not a random anxiety symptom. It may be a part of you actively trying to warn you about something. The tension you carry in your jaw might be holding anger that has never once been given a voice. Your body is not malfunctioning. It is communicating with extraordinary specificity, and you've probably been ignoring it for years, telling it to calm down, pushing through it, numbing it. And if you've been ignoring it long enough, the body starts charging interest. Chronic stress from unresolved internal conflict can weaken the immune system, raise blood pressure, and contribute to serious cardiovascular problems over time. Sleep becomes a battlefield. Insomnia and restless nights are among the most consistent physical signs of unresolved conflict, because the mind keeps trying to work on the problem even when you're unconscious. You close your eyes, and your brain stays open. Your body is trying to solve something your conscious mind refuses to sit with. And the longer the conflict stays unresolved, the higher the price your body pays. Here's something that should completely reframe the way you see yourself. Most people experience their inner conflict as a battle between good and bad parts of themselves. The disciplined part versus the lazy part. The confident part versus the fearful part. The loving part versus the resentful part. But a framework developed by psychologist Richard Schwartz, and now backed by decades of clinical research, offers a radically different view. What if none of those parts are bad? What if every single one of them, including the parts that seem to be destroying your life, originally developed as a form of protection? Because that is exactly what the evidence shows. Every internal part, no matter how extreme or self-destructive its behavior appears on the surface, was once created in response to something overwhelming. The inner critic that tears you apart every time you try something new. Somewhere along the way, it learned that if it criticized you first, harshly, the world's criticism would hurt less. The part of you that numbs out, the one that reaches for the phone, the drink, the food, the distraction, that's a protector too. It's trying to put out a fire that feels unbearable. These parts are not your enemies. They are exhausted. overworked guardians doing a job no one ever told them they could stop doing. And this is why fighting them doesn't work. When you try to silence your inner critic, it gets louder. When you try to eliminate the part of you that's afraid, the fear intensifies. Suppression isn't management, it's fuel. Every time you push a part down, it pushes back harder, because pushing back is the only language it knows. The only thing that actually softens these parts is the one thing most of us were never taught to offer ourselves: genuine curiosity, without judgment. Not, why do you keep ruining everything, but what are you trying to protect me from? That question, asked honestly and quietly, has the power to end conflicts that have been running for decades. Now let's talk about the piece that is perhaps the strangest and most counterintuitive of everything we've covered. You've probably been trying to resolve your inner conflict by figuring out which part of you is right and committing to it, picking a side, winning the internal argument. But that entire framing is the conflict. The goal was never to win the war, it was to end it. And wars end not when one side is destroyed, but when both sides are finally heard. Dialectical behavior therapy, one of the most rigorously studied approaches in modern psychology, is built entirely on this principle. It teaches something called dialectical thinking, which is simply the practice of holding two opposing truths at the same time, without needing either of them to be false. I am exhausted, and I need to keep going. I love this person, and they are not right for me. I want to change, and part of me wants to stay exactly as I am. These are not contradictions that need to be resolved. They are tensions that need to be held. And the moment you stop forcing resolution and start making room for both truths to exist, the conflict begins to release on its own. There's even a small linguistic shift that demonstrates this perfectly. Notice what happens when you replace the word but with the word and. I want to be successful, but I'm terrified of what people will think, becomes I want to be successful, and I'm terrified of what people will think. The first is a fight. The second is an acknowledgement. The first puts your two truths at war with each other. The second invites them to sit in the same room. That single word carries real weight. It stops the suppression cycle and opens something in you that but keeps shut. And here's the part that should motivate you more than anything else. Integration isn't just psychologically healthy, it's neurologically rewarding. When conflicts are genuinely resolved, not suppressed, the brain releases dopamine. You were built for this. The relief that floods through you after a real moment of inner resolution isn't accidental. It's your brain's reward system firing exactly the way it was designed to. Every time you avoid going deeper into your conflict, you're also blocking a natural, built-in reward. The peace you've been looking for isn't waiting on the other side of the decision. It's waiting on the other side of the integration. So what does this actually look like in practice? Not weeks of therapy. Not a weekend retreat. One sitting. The first move is to stop trying to solve the conflict. Just sit with it. Give it permission to be exactly as big and messy as it is. One of the deepest reasons inner conflict persists is that we keep rushing toward resolution because the discomfort feels like an emergency. But discomfort is not danger. It is information. The moment you stop treating your internal tension like something that needs to be fixed immediately, it slows down enough for you to finally see it clearly. The second move is to get into your body. Put a hand on your chest or your stomach. Notice where the conflict lives physically. Don't analyze it. Don't try to breathe it away. Just locate it. Acknowledge that it's there. Your body has been holding this for you, sometimes for years. And part of what keeps conflict frozen is that the body never gets acknowledged. Something changes when you stop and say, silently or out loud, I feel this. I know you're here. The third move is to meet the parts. Ask the part of you that wants change what it's hoping to gain. Then ask the part that's resisting what it's afraid of losing. Don't argue with either of them. Don't try to talk them out of their position. Just listen. What you will find almost every single time is that both parts want the same thing at the deepest level: safety, love, belonging, worth. They just have completely different strategies for getting there. Strategies built at different times in your life, with different information. And once you see that neither part is your enemy, the war loses its logic. The fourth move, the one most people never reach because they don't know it exists, is to stop asking which side is right, and start asking, who is the version of me that is large enough to hold both of these truths at once? Because that version exists. It has always existed. It is, in fact, the truest version of you. The goal was never to eliminate the fear, or silence the ambition, or choose between the feelings. The goal was to become spacious enough inside to hold all of it, without being torn apart by it. The people who carry real peace, not performed peace, not the kind that collapses the moment life pushes back, but the kind that stays, are not people who resolved all their conflicts by picking the right side. They are people who stopped needing the conflicts to end before they could move forward. They found a way to walk while still holding everything. Not because they found the answer, but because they stopped needing one before they could begin. That capacity is not something certain people are born with and others aren't. It is a skill. It is learnable. And you can begin building it right now, in exactly the kind of stillness you're in at this moment. Your conflict is not a flaw in your character. It is proof that you contain more than one true thing, that you are more complex than any single choice could capture. The question was never which truth to keep and which to throw away. The question is whether you're finally ready to stop making them fight each other, and let them both be part of who you are.